would happen. So I've been telling you all along that Trump was going to win. All right. So I'm not surprised in that I've always said if white women weren't going to show up for Hillary, they definitely weren't going to show up for Kamala Harris. Right. I kind of said that. Right. And I said, moreover, I think it's going to be the same thing with some of the other demographics. Right. Now, I think the very interesting thing is trying to think of how to put this, right? Like, what I'm annoyed at more than anything else is people being whiny about people wanting to step away from whatever, friendship, relationship it is over a vote for Trump, right? Like, this isn't, like a McCain situation where, McCain went out of his way to be a decent and honorable competitor, like corrected the supporter who said he's a Muslim terrorist. And, McCain is like, no, bitch, calm down. He's an honorable man. We just differ on how we want to see the country run. Right. Like he's an American citizen. Right. That was still a sense of decency. And believe me, I am not saying John McCain was a perfect politician or person, but at least there was a certain amount of decorum and decency that kicked in. We're talking about a dude that has multiple assault accusations, got found liable for sexual assault, is on tape talking about grabbing women by the genital area because he says he can get away with it because he's famous, right? And I think in Ivana Trump's book, she says one time he didn't like a service from one of her, forget if it was like a makeup artist or a haircut person or whatever. And he was so enraged, he started beating her and pulling her hair and sexually assaulting her, right? So, yeah, you have that. You have January 6th, right, where he sent a bunch of backwards rednecks into the Capitol to wave the Confederate flag and try to stop Congress from, right? And we have multiple documented scenarios where Trump did some questionable things in the area of whether you want to call it racism, bigotry, whatever, right? All the way back to the 70s, we're talking about multiple, federal housing discrimination violations, right? To the point that it dragged into court and was forced to sign a consent decree. Because I think a lot of people hear consent decree and think, oh, that's a not guilty verdict, right? But it's a little more nuanced than that. Like if you or I got dragged into court and we had to sign a consent decree, essentially part of that consent decree is we concede to wrongdoing and we promise not to do that anymore. Like if there wasn't something we had to do anymore, then that means we weren't doing something wrong, right? Like nobody just shows up at your door and says, hey, sign this consent decree for fun, right? There's an actual legal process where they found that his housing company was writing C for colored on African American applications, even Vietnam veterans, right? And then more often than not running them the house, right? In clear violation of what the federal guidelines are, right? We know that from a political standpoint, the way that he got his rise in the Republican Party was amidst all the Tea Partiers. He starts this birther movement saying, I have proof that the current Black president wasn't born in this country, right? Which for a lot of, let's just say minorities, I obviously represent the Black experience, but I've been told to go back to Africa or go back to where I came from, even though I was born here, raised here, from a U.S. military family, multiple generation U.S. military family, like relatives that fought in World War II Korea, Vietnam, even. You know what I'm saying? Served this country honorably, multiple military medals, but I'm supposed to magically go back to Africa where I'd never been, right? Because somehow I'm black and that's where I belong. Somehow, I'm not a true American and I'm the one that needs to go back. So like, and buddy, you're not saying that from your Native American half or your Native American quarter, right? Like I've never had a Native American say go back to Africa. Like that's who I would take it from. Cause like, no, my people.
Right.
Right. Like, so, hey, if I'm on the reservation, somebody wants to say it to me, you know what? You got that. But, if your ancestors pulled up on Ellis Island and whenever.
Yeah.
Shut
I mean,
up.
you're kind of being a little unkind here. I mean, it's not like you came over. It's not like you bought it. Your ancestors bought a ticket. So I think
Right.
it's not quite apples to apples, but
But,
I hear
but,
what you're
but,
saying.
but what I'm saying is the only person I would take that from is a Native American.
Right.
Otherwise, like, hey, we both need to go back. It ain't just right. Like, I don't want to hear that. So it goes on, right? Like, we can get into a lot of the questionable racial claims, even the black jobs moment during the debate. So I think what it comes down to, man, and maybe let me tell this anecdote and then we can kind of move on, is that there's a lot of people justifiably, let me say justifiably, because I'm not one of those people who says politics is not a reason to end a friendship. I think if you are heavily invested in a particular thing that's as fundamental as rights for you and the people you care about, and you feel like somebody voted for someone who's actively promising you take that away, then you have every right to move away from that friendship because that person didn't think enough of you to consider that in the ballot box, right? So I used to be a part of a church that I was really, really dedicated to. Like they did a lot of great things in the community, Habitat for Humanity, international missions, and they used to have really, really good music, like amazing music. The choir director happened to be gay, which wasn't a deal breaker for them initially, but he went to New York and he got married to his partner. And they fired him over that. And they announced, look, we know that the choir director isn't here. Stop asking us. We fired him because he went to New York and he married a guy. Right. Now, for me, that was a moment where I was like, I got to walk away from this church. Not because I'm gay, not because it personally affected me, but it was a scenario where I was like, I can't feel like I'm being true to my friendships with gay people if I remain in this church and allow that level of hypocrisy. Like I'm supposed to forget because it's Catholic Church. I'm supposed to forgive the Catholic Church for covering up all the sexual abuse and moving all the priests around and instead of pulling the priests away, they're just moving them to another parish where they're going to talk to a new group of kids. But somehow this guy, consensually get married to another guy, that's the deal breaker. That's what I'm supposed to think is okay for you to kick him out of this church when he's busting his ass, making these great arrangements, conducting the choir. And now the music sucks because that was your line in the sand, right?
Yeah.
But my point is, I didn't need to be gay to walk away from that because that to me is what I owe. If I call you my friend, if I'm with somebody and they're like, I don't like someone's blah, blah, blah. Like, I got to step away from that person as your friend, regardless of whether or not it personally affects me. Like, I could like that person up until that statement. Because if I can't do that, then I can't stand up for you any other time when it counts. Like, if we're in a fight, how can you expect me to jump in or have your back if I can't even have your back over somebody who's going after your people?
Yeah.
And so what you need to realize if you are one of those Trump supporters that feels like you're persecuted is there was definitely some smoke in a lot of those accusations. None of them came out of nowhere. A lot of this stuff is documented. A lot of this stuff is caught on videotape. And for you, it wasn't a deal breaker. So now your friend is wondering at what point your actual care for them kicks in.
Right.
Because,
Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
So you're saying I think I misheard you at first. So you're saying you're annoyed at right wingers who are crying about people defriending them.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah.
and I think one more thing, and then I will let you expound forever because I know
No. I'm loving
right.
it. Just keep going, man. You're saying a lot of good stuff. It's good to hear your
So
perspective.
right, so I think what happens with a lot of people is they think that to be racist means to be like overtly wearing the Klan hood,
Yeah.
riding around with the Nazi swastika, etc. And because like, well, hey, at least I didn't,
Right. Yeah.
burn a cross in your yard. I don't know why you're acting up. And it's because 95% of the time when a minority is friends with it's usually a white person. I know that we can talk about it, black people voted for Trump, but percentage wise, let's call it what it is, right? Close to 90% of us did not vote for the guy. And there's a very, very, very clear reason why. In high school, I had a white security guard who worked at the music building. Used to come in every day. We would talk. Great, friendly conversation. Seemed really cool. And he mentioned that he liked jazz music. So, we're talking about jazz every time I come in before I go off to practice and really bonding. He's telling me what jazz albums he likes, what jazz albums do I like. We're trading. So, oh, did you hear this yet? And can you believe that solo on this? All right. So he's nice to me. He listens to black music. I think everything is cool. And at the time, it wasn't serious, but I was like hooking up with this Jewish girl who presented white, right? Like if you were to just see the two of us walking around, you would say, oh, Nas with a white girl at the time, right? It wasn't serious. We just hooked up a little, young experimenting in high school. And apparently that set him off. I didn't know. So I go in one day and instead of being the normal cordial thing, he's just kind of aloof and just grunts. Like, all right, I guess, he's having a bad day. That's cool. Well, good to see you. I'm going to go practice. It happens again. I go in, like, just grunts, like, not really. It's like, all right, cool. So, third time it happens, I'm like, hey, look, man, you seem down lately. Like, you good? Like, did something happen? Like, did somebody die? Like, what's going on? You don't see your own self. And then you just start stalling me, like, stick to your own kind. It's like, okay.
Wow. Yeah.
And so the thing about it is, as a minority in America, if you are somebody with white friends, is what you start to learn is there might be some invisible trigger or tripwire that is going to potentially set your white friend off because they don't believe you deserve that promotion, that amount of wealth, that particular girl, all because of your skin color. Like they just feel like you belong in this certain box. And the minute that you step outside of that, could be that they don't want you to live in their same neighborhood. Like everything's cool. It could be that you're cool with them, but God forbid their daughter brings a black guy home.
Right.
And so that's really where the racism is kicking in. And it's still racism. Like, let's call it what it is. Now, if you want to say, I heard this guy did XYZ as a human being, and I'm not okay with that character, that's obviously a different discussion. But if your only issue is you think I'm friendly enough, like you think we're cool or whatever, but the minute you see me with a white girl, it pisses you off to the point you can't talk to me and I need to stick to my own kind. Like you've clearly made that judgment off of something that has nothing to do with character.
Right. Of course.
And,
All
and
all racism is learned.
yeah, and so repeatedly, like I even had people that I thought were really, really cool say dumb stuff like, I've gone out on dates with black guys before, but I've never slept with one. I'm not a slut or anything. And I'm like, I thought it was about the count, not the color. Like, are you saying we're worth like 20 dicks? Like, is that what is a black dick worth 20 dicks? What are we talking about? And I apologize for the language, but it's more of these weird nuances where it's like, oh yeah, no, you're okay to date to, so I could tell somebody I dated you and I was curious about it, but I can't sleep with you because that would make me a slut. It's like it could be like two virgins and she's a slut now because she dated a black guy. Like that's an
Yeah.
insane designation for somebody simply based off of it's a black guy. You know what I mean? Like not he's a freak, he's a porn star, whatever. That is a different bucket.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think, a lot of people will say, well, yeah, he ran around saying, oh, wasn't American. And yeah, he did housing discrimination. But look at the picture he took with this black person. And he gave Omarosa a job. So how can he be racist? And I always come back to if I can pick different incidences where you're clearly behaving this way because of a person's race, it doesn't matter
Right.
about those other things. That's as dumb as me saying Ted Bundy must be innocent because he got married twice. So clearly women love him. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, he got married. Yes, he had a baby with a woman, but he undeniably assaulted and murdered a whole lot of women. Like the DNA doesn't lie. The people who escaped to tell about it, they don't lie. Like, so yes, he clearly loved a woman, but he don't love all women, right?
Right. 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 Right.
And so I think it's one of those things where that's what people have to understand when they're hopping on this cross. Like they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't put anybody at risk. There's no reason people have to look at them and say, I don't feel safe around you and I don't trust you anymore. Like you have to hold on to that. Just like if I was DJing the local prom and I put on a bunch of Diddy and R. Kelly songs, like I didn't technically do anything wrong, but I'm going to get asked. It is a high school prom. We know what R. Kelly did. We know what Diddy did. You're continuing to play these songs. I don't care how much you love the songs. Like, this is not the place. I'm starting to wonder why you're comfortable playing these songs in this space. And you could stop or you could, not be as back. But whatever the situation is, this is going to have to change. This is not cool. This is not comfortable. This is starting to look like we're endorsing this kind of situation because you're playing this music. Like you're putting us in a position where now we don't know. We know that's not a deal breaker for you. Are you for it? Are you riding for it? Like you care this much to make it this awkward for this many people that you gotta get your Diddy set, your R. Kelly set on? Like you have to read the proverbial room. So go ahead, because I want to
Yeah.
for a while.
No, man. I mean, first of all, props to you for the solidarity that in the with the the choir director that got married, the gay choir director. I think the first thought that when you were telling that story that came to my mind was that old saying, like your liberation is my liberation is your liberation. So like I think that is, if you have a moral code,
Mm-hmm.
you understand that all of our fates are kind of entwined, right? And they're connected. And you can't just you can't just worry about your own freedom, because the people that would keep you from your freedom, it's like the famous poem, they came for the labor unionists and I didn't do anything.
Right.
And so I think that's like a really, it's actually a low bar. Like it should be the bare minimum that we do, but it's not. It actually functionally ends up being really hard for people to do.
Well,
So
do you think it's hard, or do you think it's that I'm trying to think of how to put this, right? Like it's how how can I call you my friend and not stand up for you
yeah,
and like
well,
and I
I
get
don't.
that not everyone has that standard, right? But I guess that's when we have to start designating between what is a friend, what is an acquaintance, right? Like to me, an acquaintance is we say hi, I might know your kids' names, like I might throw a like on your Facebook, but I don't feel obligated to hit you up and wish you happy holidays. I don't feel, you get what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
that's a different bucket than, I see you every day. Like our kids play with each other. Like I invite you to dinner, or we go on double dates as couples, and
Hmm.
you know what I mean. Like I'm inviting you to I know where you live. Yeah, I can watch your kids. You can watch mine. Right. That's a level of, at some point. It's like, all right, like you met me, you met my black kids, or you met me,
Well,
met my gay kid. You know,
right, right.
that kid is gonna be food under the administration that you supported. Like,
Yeah,
like
I think when I say it's hard, I think the individual act of doing the act, it's in and of itself is not hard. It's not hard to just be like, this is what I'm going to do, this is right. But I think the act of caring for somebody that you don't know is hard for a number of reasons. Either geography, right? Like it's hard, and it's hard for people to
right,
for the average American to wrap their head around, Gaza, as an example. There's a swath of, I mean, there are people that are aware of what's going on and have an opinion about it and are horrified. And then there are people
right.
that swim in very different ecosystems of information and just don't see the urgency there, because I think America specifically is a culture and a society whereby we're very focused on individuals and not groups of people, and we're focused. So I think that's kind of the broader context when I say I think it's hard. But I agree with you. I mean, I think we should all stand up for one another, particularly for people
Well,
that don't have the power and that are disenfranchised and marginalized and all that.
Well, yes, in a larger general sense, yes, I agree. In a perfect world, that's what we should do. I guess what I was specifically targeting is I'm seeing just like way too much whining. Like, how could you think I'm like, bro? Because
Right.
what isn't a deal breaker for you, right? Like,
Yeah. No,
like
I agree with, yeah. I mean,
if you got a buddy that's jamming out to you know R. Kelly every damn day, like you might reconsider having him watch your kids, and that's
yeah.
okay. That you're like, you know what, that wasn't a deal breaker for you. I don't know if I want you to babysit my daughter of this age
The
because you jamming out to R. Kelly. I'm
Yeah.
not saying you would do that. I'm saying
Right, right, right.
it's,
No, I mean the other part of what I think you're getting at, which is a great point,
yeah.
it's just always the hypocrisy. But the same people that are complaining about this were also the same people 4 years ago that like defriended their family and cut their family. So like
Oh no, I thought they just went to the Capitol and threw
well, and that too, that
like,
I was gonna add that
but
as well. Like,
yeah,
and the thing that I found annoying is like, you know, people people are mourning, people are upset, distraught, and
mhm,
they're allowed to express themselves. But you know what they didn't do? They didn't storm the Capitol. And I
right,
I see people on my timeline lecturing people, say, get over it, like as if the conservative movement didn't just spend the last 4 years and continues to this day
right,
not getting over the last election. So yeah, no,
yeah,
I think the cognitive dissonances
yeah,
of conservatism as an ideology are a feature, not bug. They are
right,
what defines, like, the entire project
yeah.
is turtles upon turtles upon turtles of cognitive dissonances.
Uh,
And you know,
I
that's a
think
big part of why the dude won.
well, so yeah, I mean, we can definitely get into that. I just think fundamentally, I don't get how how people can pretend that it is a shock that some people don't want to be associated with them for voting that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's literally all I'm struggling with, right? Like
Are you talking about just online, or in your own personal life you're seeing this happen?
both. So so I mean, so there's people who I've known for years that are just being way too damn whiny, and it's like, look, I'm not gonna unfriend you over voting for Trump. But what I do as a friend is I match energy. Like at the point I realize where your support of me or your concern for me stops, I just match that energy. So let's say a hypothetical Trump supporter is happy about it, blah blah blah. Like can't wait for us to make America great again. Cool, all of that is fine. If Obamacare gets repealed and you run into a situation where you're laid off and you lose your insurance that you potentially would have had under Obamacare, and now you're putting up this whiny GoFundMe, like need help, send all you can. Like I'm gonna be like, like I think this is the vision that you saw for the country, and this.
How recent was that you saw somebody putting up a GoFundMe
No,
for a medical
I
bill?
had seen the first time around when Trump was elected.
Right.
There was this one like hardcore like right winger. She was railing about universal health care and it being socialist, et cetera, et cetera. And then what happened was she later got sick and realized she was going to need help covering these medical bills.
Yeah.
And so she was like flooding the timelines with my GoFundMe health. It's like, look, fam, you were against people having health care. Like you were saying health care isn't a right. You're saying that anybody who wanted health care for other people was a socialist and this and that and a loser and all of that. And now here you are begging other people for money
But that's
to
what I mean.
cover your
That's
health.
what I mean about turtles. It's like
No, and
that is a cognitive the whole thing is that in a nutshell. That is a microcosm for
right.
the entire philosophy of modern conservatism.
I agree wholeheartedly. It's always funny. Like there's a couple of like subreddits called Leopard Eats Ate My Face.
Yeah, yeah. I love the
Like
leopard eats
like
face.
like one of the women who died from pregnancy complications because the doctors were scared to operate happened to be a diehard Trump supporter. And what a lot of these anti-abortion activists may not realize is that in a lot of technical circles, the word spontaneous abortion is the technical term for miscarriage. And so what it becomes is if a doctor intervenes for a miscarriage, technically they are helping an abortion. And so if, this particular lady maybe had been a little more cognizant of that, she might have known what to expect and adjusted accordingly. That's why some people did leave the state to get the type of care that they needed in case of the miscarriage. I think it's one of those things where I can't be mad at a doctor who don't want to go to jail over somebody who wanted the person who got Roe v. Wade overturned. It's like you kind of are the architect of your own destruction at that point. And that's not to say it isn't sad, but it is to say, like, now that same family is why couldn't the doctors just help? Like, because your crew made it illegal, dumbass.
Yeah.
And you gotta hold that. And you know what? Like, but my thing is own that. Be like, I believed in this so much, I sacrificed my daughter. What?
Right. But
That
that but
I
that
respect.
that
I'm
that
saying
would
that I can respect. Like
no,
like stand on it. Stand
but
on it
that's the you're
with your
you're
chest out.
saying you're 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 describing a scenario where there is no cognitive dissonance, and that's the point, is that they don't see the connection
Mm-hmm.
between a stance that they're taking in one context and an outcome that they're receiving on the other end. And that is the rub. That is where the thing falls apart. For you and I, you can say all these things about Trump that are uncontroversial to me because
Right.
I felt like,
Right.
yeah, I'm aware of the DOJ and the race that he was basically redlining with his dad back in the
Yeah,
70s.
right.
And so, but the people that vote for this guy and that elevate him into this, cult figure,
Right.
they're swimming in a completely different universe of facts. And
Hmm.
Trump has correctly, or I shouldn't say correctly, he has very deftly been able to trick people into
Hmm.
thinking that he's this populist and that he's this regular, that he's this rich guy that cares about working
So
class people. And so I just think
let me
that all of the information that you and I have at our fingertips that we think is just like uncontroversial, they have a completely different interpretation of that,
so,
and it feeds that cognitive dissonance thing that keeps going on.
so I could tell you how I came up educationally, and you could tell me why you think that standard isn't necessarily being met. And this is what I mean. What I was taught at a relatively young age, when because we had to write position papers growing up, like everybody remembers, like right, you're supposed to write, you supposed to pick a side on a particular topic and bring all of the data that supported your position, but you also had to say what the counter argument was going to be and cite what those sources were and say why you disagree, right? So, if I took a stance like gun control, right? And I say, all right, well, you know, on this side, we have this, this, this. On this side, the stats are a gun is 43% or 43 times more likely to kill somebody who already lives in the household than an intruder, right? Like, you know what I mean? But also I could also have to cite all of these anti gun control works as well to show that I studied the point. And I have to say what all of those arguments are. What I'm finding with a lot of these people is they haven't even taken the time to research articles, interviews, etc., that reach the other stance, right? So I'll tell you what I did when I first heard that Trump was racist, because at the time before he had declared, I didn't know much about the housing discrimination case. I did know that he had run around saying that Obama wasn't American. So at that point, I was out and I thought he was racist. But I did my due diligence, right? Like I actually dug into all of the times he was accused of racism and really dug into them and saw what were the interviews
Yeah.
for these people who worked with him, et cetera, et cetera. And then I also studied the other side of the counterpoint, which for me, what it brought back for me was that security guard, in that what I feel he is a person who may not be full KKK like his dad was, right? Because his dad was arrested at Klan rally. That's like documented. It's on the record. You can look the arrest record up. Like his dad was a Klansman.
Yep. Yep.
Right. My stance was he's not a diehard Klansman. He just feels a way if black people are in a position that he doesn't feel like they deserve. And the main trigger point for him around Obama was not that Obama was a bad president. Dude had been a Democrat all his life. It was
Yeah.
that Obama was a black president, and he just didn't feel like coming up under a Klan daddy that, hey, if black people don't belong in his buildings, they definitely don't belong in the White House. Oh my,
Yeah.
black person in the White House. Like I'll say the quiet part out loud. I think that he is fine, like partying with black people, listening to black music, just like that security guard. But I think, the minute, probably the minute he found out Quincy Jones was laying pipe to Ivanka, he probably felt the way. Like, oh, well, like, yeah, they're cool, but oh my God, Quincy Jones is railing my daughter. Oh my God, or so
Right.
that's the type of racist that I think that he is. And
Mhm.
I guess what I'm saying is if you have a black friend, right, this black friend that you bring up to say that you're not, or argue that you're not racist,
But that's the
don't
the whole mode of operation.
you say, don't you owe it to your black friend to dig into all of the reasons
No.
people might say he's
For
racist?
you and me, but your whole thing that you just described is how I generally try and figure stuff out. And then once I have enough information, I make I make a call and say, this is my evaluation of it
Right.
until further notice, until somebody can change it or give me something. But what I'm saying is, I'm talking about something different, which is they don't consume and analyze things in the way that you or I do, or people that have this mindset of like, well, I just want to know
Well,
what the truth
why
is.
is that acceptable? I guess
It's not acceptable. No. And also, I would say,
Yeah.
not only is it's not acceptable, but
Right.
it's also a function of other things besides individuals doing it that way. It's a function of our media ecosystem, right? It's a function of like a legacy press that normalizes right-wing policy sets to the extent that they have any policy sets. And
Well,
it sanitizes everything the dude says. So I'm not absolving people of making bad choices, but I am saying there was a time where we did not have to contend with, you could turn on the 3 network news things that we had, and you had a general sense after watching a half-hour broadcast of what was going on in the world. And that is that has not been the case for a long time. And that is another factor that plays into the cognitive dissonances.
So I will say this, and this isn't even in defense of the media. This is to kind of clarify. Like, you and I think we grew up or spent like some of our formative educational years without Fox News being a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think before Fox News, what journalism was, right, was to, if somebody says it's raining and somebody says it's dry, like I forget who gave this quote, like one person says it's raining, one person says it's dry. Your job as a journalist is to figure out whether it rained or not, right? Like that was what journalism was supposed to be. It wasn't to, in let's say the CNN scenario, bring up the guy who says it's dry, the guy who says it's wet, and then moderate. Like it's a debate, right?
That's right. Yeah. No, I've heard this example
way that
before.
we grew up.
Yeah.
The journalism responsibility was figure out whether or not it rained or not.
That's right.
And tell the public. Like, that's your damn job.
That's right.
That is your call.
No, that
right.
100%. That's one of my. It's the bane of my existence is people that don't understand that.
But when Fox News started to, how do I put this? I forgot who said the quote, but somebody once said reality has a well-known liberal bias, right? That I forget who. I apologize for not knowing who said that. So the problem is, if you do not align with the quote unquote liberal worldview, then you're starving for places to get validated. First, it was you would listen to Rush Limbaugh and feel validated. And we don't have to get into all the issues with Rush Limbaugh. Obviously, he was a problematic figure. And he was like the one celebrity who, when I heard he had cancer, like I wasn't like, oh, that's so bad. I was kind of like,
yeah.
Like if I could combine cancer, like if I could drag it out of like the kids and stuff and throw it into one person, like he'd be somewhere on the list. It is what it is.
He's easily one of the
I'll hold that.
Rupert Murdoch, Peter Thiel.
Yeah. But and I know somebody's gonna be like, well, he once had a black backup host, so there's no way he can be racist. Moving on. Right? I think what started to happen is, as they saw that Fox News and Rush Limbaugh were getting more and more profitable, a lot of news organizations said, well, we don't want to lose market share. We don't want to lose this. We don't want to lose that. So let's indulge these people a little more so as not to lose market share, rather than saying, look, if it rained, I'm going to report that it rained. Like I touched the leaves, they were wet. Like I saw the worms coming out of the ground. Yeah, I heard the thunder. I saw the lightning. Here's a photo of the lightning last night over this site. Like it clearly fucking rained. I don't care if you think it's dry. These are what the facts are. I'm not going to have you on my show to tell me why it's dry when I can show you the facts. Like there's no need to hear like, yes, you are allowed to have an incorrect opinion. That's not illegal. I think what's happening is that what passes for journalism these days is we indulge people with woefully incorrect opinions to the point
Yeah.
there's like I never thought there would be a time, man, when we had a significant part of the population talking about the earth was flat in 2024, right?
Yeah. Well, that thing's been around for the last 10 years at this
So
point. But yeah.
so my struggle is in losing the I don't even want to call it adversarial. I'll say in losing the investigative aspect of forming an opinion, whether it's a voting opinion or an opinion on a particular subject that is supposed to matter to people you care about, right? Like you're supposed to say, if I were going to argue that this person was homophobic or racist or sexist, what articles would I look up? What interviews would I cite? What proof would I cite? What court documents would I cite? And then you list them all. You say, I was going to argue this person wasn't homophobic, wasn't racist, wasn't, misogynist, whatever. What documents would I cite?
Yeah.
What defense would I cite? All right, I've gone through all of these. I can't in good conscience say there's no way or no justification for somebody thinking that he's racist because of these three events. I get why somebody I care about could come to the conclusion that they are racist. And I think what the respectful conversation is, because I'm for any conservatives or people that voted for Trump that are feeling hurt and you happen to run into this trying to figure out what to do. The best way to do it is to go to your friend or whoever's about to unfriend you and say, I looked into the scenarios that you listed off for coming to that conclusion, or I looked into scenarios where this is and you could say one of two things. You could say, I didn't care enough to dig into them before. I just wanted to find articles that confirmed whatever bias I had. I didn't want to entertain the fact that he might be this way because I was just so invested in voting for him. And I apologize, or even I don't apologize, but that's just where I was with it. That's a different discussion than I can't believe you think that I'm this, or I can't believe you would think he's this because one time I bought you a beer and we hung out, so I could never vote for a racist person. Like that's bordering on gaslighting, right? And and two is there's also coming up to the person and be like, look, I know that he's problematic in this area, this area, this area, but I'm massively rich and I just needed that tax cut. So it wasn't a deal breaker for me. And I apologize for how that affects you. I realize that this is going to be tough for you. I know part of that is on me. I just wanted to acknowledge what you're feeling and that you're justified in feeling it. It just wasn't a deal breaker for me. That's also a reasonable conversation. And we're not saying that you got to beg whoever's about to unfriend you, whoever has an issue with you. What we are saying is you owe them the decency of looking into, if you truly consider them your friend, look into why they were concerned. Don't dismiss it. Don't just say, oh, don't worry about that because, well, no, look into it. Like, look into if they mention XYZ, go look into XYZ. And don't go in with this a dismissive attitude that, oh, it's just somebody who hates this guy. So that's why it would be. Go in with, all right, well, who said it? Who was there? Who were the witnesses? All right, was this video edited in any way? Oh no, it's coming directly from the CNN interview, or it's coming directly from this, or it's coming directly from his website. Okay,
Yeah.
so filtered, right? That I think is what the conversation needs to start with. If you're going up to a person and saying, "I can't believe you could unfriend me over this," it's not important. You're just kind of doubling down on everything they're concerned about. Doesn't matter, no matter how much they researched it. And that's never a good place to come if you truly are caring about a person and they generally are fearful, right? Like I had posted on Facebook when he won that look, regardless of how you voted, there's a lot of your minority friends that are really worried right now. Like when I was in Seattle, this is a true story. The week that he got elected, a lot of my Filipino and Asian like Vietnamese, like a couple of different, yeah, coworkers were coming to me and saying that some of their kids' teammates were running up to them like, yeah, now Trump's going to get you out of this country. Like people that they thought were cool.
Yeah.
And
You're saying this is in 2016?
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there was,
Well, I mean that's happening again now. They had those
right.
text messages to the HBCU students
Right.
there were some text messages here in PA at some high schools. So
Yeah. And so what I've told people a million times, like I told them before 2016, which is when a lot of people are like, oh my God, I'm surprised. Like, like I wasn't surprised because it's like people don't change their stripes in their 70s. They just don't. Sorry. So
well, you realize what you just described in terms of your advice. I mean, I respect it and I think it's the right move, but that's just a utopia that's never going to
no,
happen.
I'm not saying I'm saying if you truly care about the relationship, right? If you don't, if you're just like, oh, you're just a hater and you invented all these stories about Trump, any negative story about Trump is a figment of your imagination. He only ever walks on water. I can't believe you would dislike him. And I don't care who I lose in my life. That's cool. Rock out with that. But if you're one of these people that's like, I can't believe this guy would unfriend me, really look into it. Really see how they
Yeah.
feel. If somebody feels that passionately betrayed, you have to look in the mirror and say, what is it about this guy? Let me really dig into why my friend who I'm so upset is unfriending me or stepping away from me now, or some people are losing their girlfriends over it. Like look into it, man, or woman. Like look into it,
I just
and
have
not on Fox News and not on Newsmax. I'm saying like dig
no,
into these articles, dig into these, and but or stop pretending that they're your friend.
there may
That,
be, but there may be,
I,
you
I,
know, I'm an optimist at the end of the day. There may be somebody out there that is capable of what you're describing, but
right,
my lived experience with people of that political stripe is that
right.
is not a thing that they are capable of in general, because it's all binary.
No,
It's all the liberals are ruining the world and they're out to get us. And when your frame is
but if that's what it is, then you shouldn't be my friend then, right? Like I'm
right, no, that's a separate point. But
so
I'm
then
just
don't
saying,
don't want about a friend anymore. That's all I'm saying.
yeah,
Like
no, that I mean,
so that's just where I was coming from. Like I am not pretending that the average
did you break up with somebody over their vote?
no, I haven't committed to a woman in so long. I forgot how to do it. Um,
No, no, I meant break up with a friend.
no, my whole thing is I match energy. Like if somebody who voted for Trump puts up a whiny GoFundMe, like, oh my God, I lost my health care, or oh my God, now with these new tariffs, I can't buy that new gaming computer and I can't stream. Like, bro, you chose it. Like I'm not. Don't send me the GoFundMe personally because I'm gonna roast you. I will. I'm gonna be like, this is what you chose, bro. You know what I mean? Like, you the party of personal responsibility. Own it. Handle it.
Yeah.
Don't come to me with your hand out. Don't come to me with your hand out. And that's all it is. Oh, that that coworker or friend or family member is getting deported and you never thought they'd be on the denaturalization list. So you chose, homeboy. I don't know what to tell you. No, I ain't giving you money for no immigration lawyer. You put them in that position. You get all the money. You had a plan. You had to have a plan. You had to know that there was that risk. And if you didn't, then like you're a little bit too dumb for me to be worried about losing you as a friend anyway. And I mean that sincerely. Like I don't, and it's not even. I'm trying to think of what the word is. It's not necessarily apathy, but it's like as minority, like particularly Black people, I think we're always expected to save people from themselves, right? Like dating back to whether it's slavery or indentured servitude, sharecropping, whatever. Like there's always been this expectation that we're supposed to accept what little crumbs of rights we do have, but somehow make life easy for like white America in general, right? Like that's kind of what the expected contract is. Like no matter what happens, we're supposed to be the ones who like rally and say, right, like we're supposed to be the ones that entertain you in the depression or whatever. We're supposed to be the ones that give you all the music and we just smile and entertain you, and then we go off to our segregated quarters where you don't have to deal with us until you need to get entertained again. I get what the general sentiment is about like who we are. Like once the ball stops, once the clock hits 0-0-0 and the game is over, like you can go back to pretending that black people don't have these rights or these expectations towards America in terms of how we should be treated. Like it's unreasonable or it's woke if we don't want to be called the N word and we don't want to sit through, comedians telling tired watermelon jokes in Madison Square Garden. I get all that, right? But if that's the team you on, like, what do I owe you? Like, what do I owe you in your time of need, in your time of crisis, in your time of pain? Because you didn't care about putting me in a time of need, a time of crisis, and a time of pain. So if you come to me with that, like it's just like I match it. Like I mute you for however long, and then the minute hey, check out my song, no.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
number one, even if the music is amazing, like why?
Yeah. It's
like,
the same. It's the same reason.
Right.
It's the same reason that Republican governors and constituents in southern states
right.
Get pissy about FEMA money going to other states when it doesn't involve them. And then as soon as a hurricane hits Florida, then all of a sudden it's like, hey,
right.
what about us? And then,
right.
So I mean, again, cognitive dissonance upon cognitive dissonance, turtles all the way down.
I don't even think it's cognitive dissonance, man. I think it's I don't care till it happens to me, which is different than cognitive dissonance.
That's a different part.
Force them, no, I think if you force the average person in that position to actually talk about it, what it is they're fine with it in the abstract until it affects them.
I don't think that preclude. I think I think we're talking about a semantic difference because the cognitive dissonance is.
Well, no, I'm saying narcissism is different than, you get what I'm saying? So like if I say I'm fine with that happening to you because I think it'll never happen to me, right? Like on some level, it's not even necessarily cognitive dissonance. It's just, hey, I'm fine if that leopard eats you. I'm just worried if
I mean, your motivation can be narcissism, but at the end of the day, it's a cognitive dissonance. It's objectively a dissonant position because you're arguing that the base of the argument is that taxpayers shouldn't fund other people in need, only themselves I should just pay for myself.
Right.
And then when the time comes for you to live by that standard, you're saying, oh, well, but please give me the FEMA money. That's the cognitive dissonance. But that cognitive dissonance, to your point, can be fueled by self-absorption and narcissism, which I think is true. Yeah.
Right. And to me, that's the quiet part of it. Like, it's like, all right, so like you knew this person and this person was at risk. You rode for it. Now it's backfiring on you and you want it. Like it was amazing. There's been a lot of stories of people now realizing what is happening to them because of tariffs, right? Because there's a whole lot of, I'm an economics major, so I could talk about tariffs all damn night. But
it's the leopard people party eating their faces. I couldn't believe that they ate my face. It's like,
and so
there's the woman who voted for the leopard people's eating faces party.
Right. And so there's a lot of companies now that are either laying off or deferring bonuses. They're trying to buy certain items that they think will be affected by the tariffs and stockpile. Like they're trying to essentially get ahead of all of these tariffs that are going in. Because for people who don't remember how some of the tariffs went in the original Trump years, essentially there were a lot of tariffs as related to goods that came from China. And the problem was that once those tariffs were enacted, it's not something that happens in a vacuum. Typically, what happens is if you start launching tariffs towards a particular country on certain items, they're going to launch retaliatory tariffs as a result. And
Yep.
so Iowa was a very big producer of soybeans, and China was a very big consumer of soy sauce. And the trade war got so bad that Iowa farmers essentially had to be subsidized for the tune of 11 to $12 billion, right? Essentially, American taxpayers had to pay 11 to $12 billion so these soybean farmers wouldn't go under, because China was like, all right, like if that's how you want to roll, fuck your soybeans, right? And so, what was the net gain? On some level, consumers were paying higher prices because the items that were getting imported from China had tariffs lodged against them. On the other hand, we had to pay another 11 to 12 billion to keep soybean farmers afloat, who probably voted for Trump, ironically, because China was like, "Fuck your soybeans." Yeah, we're a
Right.
country of 1 billion people. We eat a shit ton of soy sauce. We eat a shit ton of soybean, and you know what? Fuck you, Iowa. Fuck you. Right?
Did you see that video with David Pakman explaining on this one right wing podcast about a tariff, and the guy didn't know what a tariff was, and then
Well,
he was like, "Wait, we pay for the tariff?" And he's like,
yeah,
"Yeah, you pay for the
and
tariff,
and
not
that
China."
whole
It
thing,
was
like,
hilarious.
like, like everybody I know has been saying these. If you don't like high prices, you really aren't going to like life with these tariffs enacted. And what I don't understand is immediately when I hear that type of thing, I'm going to go look into what a tariff is. I don't like, obviously, I know. I'm going
Again,
to look
that's
into that. I'm
yeah,
not going to go, la, 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 la,
right. No,
about my
that's right.
idol.
That's right.
Because we are talking about your family's economic well-being on some level. Like, as the responsible person of a household, throw away the policy differences for a minute. Throw away the political parties for a minute. Like, if your big issue with your family is things are too expensive, you can't feed your family, and you hear tariffs are going to be more expensive, it is your damn job as a responsible adult looking out for your family to look into what a tariff is and what the price is going to be. Like, I think they were estimating.
Most people don't do what you're
No,
describing, unfortunately.
but I
Most people
think
don't do that.
you have to say this to spoon feed people, right? Because it's like sometimes they're kind of stuck in.
I try.
Oh,
I've tried, but it doesn't
I
it
did it.
doesn't work.
No,
The other layer to what
yeah,
you're talking about, to
yeah,
extend your example,
yeah,
it's not just about, that's the first step, is going out and gathering information.
right,
There's another step that's implicit in what you're saying, and you and I know it. But
right,
the other step is, once there's a you get a critical mass of information and analysis, and once you understand what the broad arguments are, you develop a consensus and an opinion that you state, and you're
right,
able to make a declarative statement. You make
right,
a call. You say,
right,
"Okay, I've looked into this, and
right,
now I'm ready to say this is what it is." And you say that in parentheses right after that, "I will change my mind if I'm presented with other arguments that are stronger than what I have right now. But based on everything I've looked at,
right,
this is what's going on here with this thing. And I'm going to now operate moving forward
right,
from that basis with that declarative statement in mind. And that will inform my vote or my actions or where I buy, whatever the thing
yeah,
is that you're dealing with." That step is almost as important as the first step, because there's an entire cottage industry on the right wing. I call them merchants of doubt. I stole it from that climate change
mm-hmm,
documentary a while back. But like, it's not just in climate change. There's an entire cottage industry of like faux think tanks who
right,
generate papers to like muddy the waters about vaccines, to
Right.
muddy the waters about fluoride,
Hmm.
to muddy the water. And what happens is you get these supposed objective empiricists that claim that that's what they want. But instead of making a call based on consensus, they will listen to the one doctor out of 100 that says this is the thing instead of the 99. And
Right.
yet they will not go, and if they had to get operated on, you bet your
Right.
ass they're going to go with the 99 doctors and not the one
Well,
doctor. But when
I
it's something that doesn't directly affect, like,
I
oh,
used
vaccines, like, I don't,
I was about to say I used to think that until COVID. I used to think you know that the average American would defer to medical expertise.
and they
Like
did
I
for a
don't
time,
know
but yeah.
how. Yeah, I don't
No,
know
I'm not saying
how.
the average American does that. I'm saying the methodology that you just described, you've been describing, and I'm affirming that. Like
Right.
the other layer to it is to be
Right.
able to like take a stand and be like, okay, the world is round.
Right.
It's raining outside.
Right.
But there are some people you will give them things to read, you will point them in a direction,
Right.
and they will still say, well, I don't know. I found this. They'll keep looking for one thing
Right.
that's oftentimes irrelevant, but they'll still pin their argument on it. And
Yeah.
that's the part that also drives me crazy.
Well.
It's not just people
Yeah.
that don't look for information in the way that you describe. It's people that find or are given the information and are still unable to make a
I'll tell
call and
you.
be like,
I'll I'll tell you what it is, and I think this is something we should recommend to our listeners. I know we got to kind of chop and edit some of this up, but what I strongly recommend for you listeners out there that are figuring out the most effective way to form opinions to approach things is to make your research logically based and not emotionally based, right? So I'll give you an example of something, right? Like one of my buddies is very heavy into women's rights because I kind of want to take it out of like the political realm on it, like very heavy into women's rights, et cetera, et cetera. And not that I'm not, but it's like a much more passionate thing that he is into. And I happened to see some studies that looked at like Rhode Island and a few other places before prostitution was legalized and after, right? And I was like, hey, I want you to look at these studies and turn off any opinion or emotion you had about the idea going into it. And what it turned out was that the preponderance of the studies, when prostitution was legalized, the number of sexual assaults went down and the number of STD
mhm,
spread went down, right? And it's one of those things where I think a lot of people could go into that argument from a very emotional place, which is, it's never okay for there to be prostitution and da-da, and like all of that is fine emotionally. But as a decision maker, if you see that making it legal um, makes women safer in a way because there's less assault and there's less STD spread, are you going to stay rooted in your emotion or are you going to say, well, it seems like a woman that I care about is less likely to get assaulted if prostitution is legal? And we already have, sugar daddy websites and everything else. There's and OnlyFans. There's clearly women who are into sex work. Maybe I need to let them have that, and like people I care about may be safer, right?
right.
And so I say that to say logic needs to have the seat at the table when you're putting your research together and forming your opinion. And I know for a lot of people, voting is emotional choice, right? Like I think a lot of people were attracted to Obama because he had this soaring rhetoric and he talked about hope and change and all the time, and everybody kind of got sucked in so much that they forgot what some of his policy positions were at times, right? Like he got handed the Nobel Prize when he was talking about no, I'm gonna invade Pakistan and
Droning more people,
right.
yeah,
Eh,
up to
But
that point.
but
Yeah.
but the thought of it just was like, oh my God, he's such a strict. Like when he talks, we make him. And look, Obama's one of my favorite presidents. I'm not saying that I'm not trying to disparage him as a president, but I think what started to happen was people started to project things on him because they just connected with him from such a visceral emotional place that they stopped thinking about how his policies affect me, what's his approach going to be, et cetera, and just got caught up in, right? I think in a different way, that's what's happening with a lot of Trump supporters. They just connect with him so viscerally
Yeah.
that the ability to itemize, well, I'm looking at Project 2025 and this seems worrisome. Like maybe we shouldn't deploy the military on protesters. Like maybe that's a bad idea. Like maybe we shouldn't, you know what I mean? So what
But
I
see, not everybody thinks that. Those are largely like your
right,
belief that that is an uncontroversial statement is not held by people on the
right.
other side. They look at it like, no, Antifa's out there, and we need the National
Okay,
Guard to
but
come in and kill them, right? Like,
yeah, okay. But then the flip of that is, if things go another way and we get another January 6th on their hands and all those people getting mowed down, like these are the same people that whined about Ashley Babbitt getting shot. And I'm not arguing that Ashley Babbitt was a peaceful protester by any means. Like anytime you try to break into a room where the vice president is and they're chanting to hang the vice president outside and the gallows is already set up, like you gotta know you're jumping in there in a way that might be perceived as you being an enemy combatant, and you got to deal with that smoke. I was never emotionally like, well, because she aligns this way, she deserved to get shot. I am just team, hey, look, man, like if they think the vice president's life is under threat and you trying to force your way into the same room as him, you have to know that, you have a better likely than not chance of getting shot.
right.
Like if you or I like ran up on JD Vance right now, we would only get but so far before somebody engaged us in a violent capacity. Just is what it is,
Yeah.
right? Like so that is the struggle. Like you open that Pandora's box and it's like, look, buddy, so now you're protesting to something you disagree with, right? Or, with this Project 2025 thing, some of the expansion of power is like, what if it gets to the point Trump can take your land, right? Like
Right.
take your land and kick you off with no compensation. Like he gets that pass through. Now you getting kicked off the land. All you and your buddies are protesting, like, hey, we want to stay on the land. This isn't what we voted. We voted for.
Yeah.
How could you stab us in the back? And now here comes the military shooting you up because that was what you voted for.
Right. Well,
And so,
the way they look at that though is they're again,
right,
not to beat a dead horse, but the
right,
cognitive dissonance. I mean, this could be like a drinking game. Like
right,
the cognitive dissonance there
right.
is that is what you've identified. It's like, wait, this could be flipped on its head and used against you. What they're banking on is that it won't, and they're probably right. The
Mm,
particularly if Trump, no, I mean, if Trump is in office, it
right.
highly unlikely that we saw this. We know this because January 6th happened, and he barely ended up calling the National Guard only after it was like later in the day when he was after he had been pressured for hours on end by people in his own party.
Well,
And
I thought
so they're not
no,
gonna
no, no, no. Wait, Pence made the call, but he said he told the generals that he wanted it. He wanted them to say it came from the president. That's what happened.
no, I'm saying but right. I'm
Yeah,
saying that Trump
Trump wanted Pence to die. Like, let's not.
no. I'm saying but eventually that he did make the call and the guard came. I'm saying
No, I'm saying
he is not going
Pence
to
said send in the guard. Like Trump did not. Like Trump was watching that, like chilling. Like we
Mhm.
all know, like if anybody wants to see, and these are Republicans testifying. That's the other thing, right? Like it's a whole bunch of his squad, people who work for him, people who were with him on that day. Like, yeah, this is what happened, and it's like, hey, they got no reason to lie. Like, there's no incentive for them to lie. Like that was their guy. They rode for him. It's their reputation that's linked to him. They have no reason. Like the incentive is minimal. But I think at the end of the day, you have to take emotion out of your decision making. You have to take emotion out of your research, regardless of how you feel about a particular position going in, you actually need to dig into every credible piece of research and form an informed opinion that has nothing to do with the opinion that you had before, right? Because if you go in with an opinion, then there's incentive for you to only study the articles that support your opinion and not the counterpoints. And so I think that's just as a way to move forward for our listeners. I would encourage all of you to go with that mindset. So if you find yourself, whether you're right wing, left wing, centrist, you have a position on a particular subject, or you're trying to figure out where you stand on a particular subject, like look at both sides. And if somebody is accused of racism, homophobia, whatever, like check out all of the research that aligns with that opinion, in addition to whatever you want to point to say that that person is not racist or homophobic. Because if you have a friend that could be affected by that, isn't it your obligation to stand up for them? Like, if you're saying you would stand up for them in a fight, if you're saying you would stand up for them in person while they're being disrespected, then I think it's okay to take 30 minutes of that energy to research a topic that will affect them in the future, if they're truly your friend, right? Like, not the acquaintance and not the person that you like to cite when you're accused of racism as a friend, like an actual friend that you legitimately care about. If it's just lip service, then carry on, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, your lips to God's ears,
Yeah.
God's mouth. I I'm doubtful that would ever happen. I've had a lot of experience in my own in my
Yeah.
own circles with
Yeah.
dealing with that mindset. And it is, so much of it is personality based and emotional. And
Right.
yeah,
Which
I mean, it's
actually,
crazy.
we didn't used to be, as a country, we didn't used to be such emotional voters. Like, there used to be a lot more. There used to be a lot more. You
You
know,
know,
there used to be a.
really? Like, when was this? Because remember, we elected Reagan too, twice. So what are you talking about?
So here's the thing about Reagan. I look, Jimmy Carter was put in an impossible position. I think it was like a convergence of bad bad occurrences, like, all right, like you had the Iran hostage issue, right? You had
Mm-hmm.
uh you had OPEC feeling away and boosting up the gas prices. Like, it's always tough as an incumbent to win re-election when there are economic pressures, or
Mm-hmm.
like there's a bad economy, or people feel like there's a lot of inflation. It just that is an economic thing and not an emotional thing. I will never pretend that Reagan wasn't a racist. Like, for people who are saying what, Rick? Yeah, so there is a call that he made to Nixon where he calls the leaders of some African nations monkeys who just learn how to wear shoes.
Yeah, yeah.
That you
Nice.
that you can yeah that you no I'm saying for the listeners that you can
Yeah.
bring up. Like, Reagan was a documented racist. Like, it's on audio. There's a lot of calls where
But
he's
here's what happens when you say all of these
yeah.
correct, objective, demonstrable things that people could just look up. Like, there's recordings of these things, transcripts. Here's what happens. The other layer to this
Mhm.
is that Republicans are always creating their own narratives, whatever the case may be. And Democrats are always working off the back foot, responding from those baselines that the Republicans have set. And that include, like, if somebody Republican was listening to this podcast, they would
Right.
immediately say, "Oh, there they go, the race hustlers talking about race again, making everything about race." Right? It's like,
It's like,
oh,
no,
there they go, talking about race.
I think
And
so. Let's not paint because I know a few Republicans personally that
I'm just speaking in broad strokes. I'm not.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with
I'm not talking about those people.
I'm
And
with you. I just, for balance, I do want to say that I know a lot of, well, not a lot of, but I know multiple Republicans who refused to vote for Trump, some of whom stepped away from the party completely in protest
Well,
of
good for
the
them.
Trump
Good for
method.
them. They
And
should
so,
do that. Yeah.
and that's when I'm referring to people that stand on principle, or people that for for them his actions were a deal breaker. I think that we need more of those. And not to say that if you like Trump, you're a bad person. Just to say that understand that there are some people who have higher ethical and moral standards in terms of conduct than you, and that they're just as valid in their opinions for expecting more out of a leader than you did. And
Yeah.
if that means that they walked away from the Republican Party protest,
Yeah.
that's fine too. Right. But I
Yeah.
think what we need to do in general is start conceding that just because somebody did something that was a deal breaker for one person, I think the other person, rather than saying that never happened, just say, I understand why that was a deal breaker for you. It's not a deal breaker for me. I feel like that's a lot more honest conversation than what's happening now,
Yeah.
which is this attempt to gaslight, to say, I mean, there's some low IQ people out there saying Trump was never accused of racism until he ran for president. It's like,
Yeah.
nah, the federal government
Right.
pretty much disagree.
Well,
Like,
and the
stop being stupid. Like,
with
let's or
right.
let's put it this way. Like, this podcast is not for stupid people to feel better. Let me put it that way. And yes, the reason that I'm calling people like that stupid is it's such an unresearched viewpoint when there's legitimate data out there to the contrary, that for you to repeat it is just like going out in a rainstorm and saying that it's dry. Like, at some point, I got to call you stupid. Not because I'm mean, just because you're stupid. So, like, I think, I don't want to be part of the culture that contributes to giving stupid people confidence. Like, I believe in calling stupid people stupid because that's how they get better. Like, I used to come to my friends and circle, like, when I was younger, and if I had a dumb idea, they tell me it was a dumb idea, and they tell me why it was a dumb idea. And then I would go back and research and come up with a better idea, or I'd be like, all right, I learned something. That's what life is. You don't know everything. But when you hear about something, even if it's contrary to your opinion, go research and be like, I learned something. I was
Right.
wrong. But yeah, don't run around saying it was dry when it just rained. Like, don't be stupid.
Yeah.
And don't
Then
make people feel good about themselves. Call them stupid, please. When they ask you, other than stream burn chips, plus
I
one.
got I got a closing I guess pet peeve, but a closing cognitive dissonance, and this is a big one. For 4 years, we've heard about how the election was stolen.
Right.
We had an attempted coup, which is what January 6th was. It was an insurrection.
Agreed.
And so, um, and we couldn't trust elections. So two things happened that are just like glaring, but the MAGA folk will never talk about this or acknowledge this, which is number one, Trump all of a sudden was everywhere in direct mail, in interviews, asking people to vote early and to vote by mail. Like magically, that just became okay. And then number two, he won, and Kamala conceded the next day, and that was it. Nothing happened. And I literally saw Joe Rogan the day after, without any irony at all, laughing and saying, "Who would have thunk it? Voting works." And without any reference, he sort of in passing just like acknowledged that, like, 2020 was, there were problems with 2020. And I that is just like, it's like the chef, the chef's kiss emoji. It's just like mwah. It's just like the chef's kiss of cognitive dissonances. It's like, to you, the way you describe like being objective, right? Like you would be like, well, that's really interesting, right?
Right.
Because like I put a lot of value in a predictive value based on like your track record. So if like if somebody says something and it happens over and over, then it makes me perk my antenna up. So, oh, this person seems to be trusting. Conversely, if somebody says something and then completely reverses themselves and then does the thing that they were
Right.
arguing against,
Right.
and then they have nothing to say when the outcome happens, like it's strange, like because Antifa was, remember there was that big argument that Antifa was behind January 6th for a time, right? It was like
Yeah.
it was Antifa.
Only stupid people think that.
But
And yet you are
but
stupid.
there's no Antifa. Where'd the Antifa go this time around? It's amazing.
Well, no. Let's say the quiet part out loud there. If it was really Antifa, then Republicans wouldn't have fought so hard to exonerate the January 6ers or call them patriots. Like you can't have both things. Either Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump are
another excellent cognitive dissonance that you have
right.
identified.
So that was my whole thing. Like if it was truly Antifa, then you want them under the jail too. Why are you fighting the January 6th hearings? Right? Like, yeah, let's get to the bottom of Antifa. So that was my whole thing. I said, look, only stupid people think that. And yes, you are stupid if you think Antifa was behind January 6th. Number one, they were waving Trump flags. Number two, they were waving the Confederate
no,
flag.
but that could have dude. Any Antifa person can go by a Trump flag and pretend to be.
Well, no, but what I was going to say is Antifa is known for punching Nazis and punching people who wear Confederate flags. Like Richard Spencer was walking around talking.
I know, but they were trying to frame it on Trump, on good Trump supporters. They were trying to frame it.
And so understand that if anything, what Antifa was generally doing was punching Nazis. Like they were going to these rallies and finding people with the swastikas and punching them in the face and punching people with Confederate flags in the face. So, QAnon Shaman and whoever that other loser was waving the Confederate flag would have been punched in the face if it was an Antifa rally. Like what the thing that I haven't seen Antifa do is wave swastikas or Confederate flags, like ever. In any of these Antifa gatherings, they're not waving all that stuff. But you know who consistently is? Trump supporters. I thought Charlottesville, there was a whole lot of Nazi flags waving. There's a whole lot of Confederate flags waving. And, Trump said there's very fine people on both sides. We know what it is. But that's what I saw a lot more of is at Trump rallies, there was more Confederate flags and more Nazi flags. Like I seen it with my own eyes, right? So that's, again, if you came to the conclusion that Antifa was behind January 6th, like you're probably too dumb to process anything, including this podcast. And, we pray that you get the help you need and supplements you need and psychiatric care that you need.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. These we could probably talk for another 3 hours, but we might have to. I mean, we're gonna have 4 years of this shite. So we'll have, unfortunately for us, plenty of material. But you see he just nominated some Fox News host to be the Secretary of Defense. It's insane. He nominated a guy named Peter Hegseth to be the Secretary of Defense.
Is it too early for third times the charm jokes?
Bro, it's insane. I mean, okay, he is, I guess, in the Army National Guard, but still, beyond that,
bro, like here's the thing. What I'm not gonna do is like agonize over each and every pick that he makes for his cabinet.
I'm not agonizing over it. I'm just laughing at it.
I'm just in the first cabinet.
The main thing that's funny about it is that the two positions, and all due respect to I know a lot of my peoples have love for Tulsi Gabbard because she's half Samoan. So respectfully, but she was angling. Tulsi was angling for either Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense, and both of those are off the table now. Anyway,
did she forgot to look in the mirror and check this?
Man,
I really thought she was gonna get a position that big.
Well, he did. I mean, he did give it to Rubio. He gave Secretary of State to Rubio. So, but anyway, it's gonna be a ride, bro.
Is Rubio Cuban now?
Yeah, he's Latino.
Yeah. Cubans are like hardcore Republican, and like Florida Cubans are hardcore Republican.
Yeah.
So it just is what it is. I wonder how many ways he's gonna grab. No, but no, I refuse to agonize over every post. Here's what I expect. I expect him to put David Duke in the cabinet somewhere. I'm expecting Richard Spencer or Nick Fuentes in there somewhere.
Oh my
Like
God.
you pick a like hardcore racist, right?
I don't know
And
if he's
people
gonna
are
do
like,
because Nick Fuentes broke away from him in the last month, and then at the last couple of weeks he went back. But he said some mean things to Trump. So I don't think Fuentes is gonna
hey,
get any love. He's gonna get no shine.
well, I guess my point is, I'm like, if pick a racist, he's probably gonna be in the cabinet. Like I'm expecting the worst. It's gonna be like racists and perverts.
Racist, warmongers, like
Yeah.
just the whole thing. Yeah, let's fight wars everywhere.
So
It's
no, I don't think they're gonna want to fight wars everywhere. It'll be interesting to see whether or not he backs Putin with Ukraine, because from what I understand, he owes Putin a lot of favors in the
Gee, I
rest of.
wonder why. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see whether or not he deploys to Ukraine. But I don't think he's going to. I don't think he's going to like engage in what is it, the conflict in the Middle East. I don't think he's going to send troops over there.
I yeah.
So
Anyway, that was a nice vent
yeah,
after a long ass week.
it's only going to get longer. I think the thing is, somebody once said like to like one of their black friends like about the election, like, why aren't you more this like I'm black, I'm used to being disappointed. Like this is generally like it's like I think a lot of times like there's a lot of white women right now who are legitimately hurting or feel scared about getting pregnant now, or are worried what's gonna happen
Right.
if they get impregnated during an assault or something like that. And for them, this might be the first time that they really feel like their rights are under attack. Whereas,
Right.
me having been raised with two segregation survivors as a black guy who grew up in predominantly white neighborhoods, I'm like,
Yeah. No, it's a totally different feeling for people of color for 100%.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like we do. But I think the thing is like the audacity of telling me I don't know what it is when my well-being is way more at risk for being wrong, is all. Like I think people need
Mhm.
to calibrate to that, right? Like so it's like the way the way I use the analogy is, when somebody was like, hey, you didn't see it, but when you were gone, they tried XYZ. And it's like, at that point, I have two decisions to make. Because even if I didn't see them do it, I have to be calibrated enough to know, like, I'm not a woman, I'm not a female. So I'm not going to necessarily be in peril to the level that she is. So I can't, well, he didn't try it with me, so I don't see what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like, be like, well, shit, if you feel uncomfortable, like if it's just an uncomfortable thing, then all right, now I know I can't put you two together. But if it's a he did XYZ and he crossed this physical barrier, then it's now I have to decide, do I want to work with this person at all anymore, given that this is what they're cool with, or am I just managing around this person to make sure I don't put them with a well, but either way, I can't just keep putting the woman with this guy, because the first time it's on them, the second time it's on me. And it would be like from a liability standpoint and all that, like, right? Like it's like at the point I have heard, the more I hear this guy does this with women, the more and more, because it's like if somebody says, I told Nan this is what he does. I'm sorry he did that with you, but I told Nan this is what he does. I'm surprised he put you with it. Like now it's on me. And now I have this reputation of being cool with it. Maybe I didn't do it, but now that's who they're aligning me with, right?
Yeah. Woke non.
So, well, no, but I guess my point is, it's like
You woke, bro. That's what you are. Um,
I have no choice. Like
I'm
my life
joking. I'm
depends on
making
that.
jokes.
That's no, but that's what I love. Like this whole like it's dismissive. Like, and then it's like, do you know where woke came from? Like it's from Lead Belly talking about stay woke because of sundown towns. Like if you're in this area, like
Hmm.
they stay woke because the minute the sun goes down, the sheriff
Yeah.
ain't gonna help you. So
Yeah.
even the word woke comes from black people being in danger from
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, and it became an expression of consciousness in the civil rights era
right.
but yeah, I think it's a great point, and I've been hearing that point made a lot this week, which is that black people in general have just never trusted the system anyways. So when the system fails, they're typically not surprised. People of color are just not surprised by it. I do think that there is something about there is a difference. There's a qualitative difference in the way that black and brown people respond to certain things versus, broadly the way that, a white audience has responded to it. Because, it's just kind of like, oh, here we go again. It's just like,
Yeah.
let's just do it. Let's just roll with it. Like, and then the other thing was, I was like, oh, now Americans know what it's like to have their government like coup d'etat basically, because it like destabilized. I was just like, this is what it's like now. Technically, it's not quite apples to apples. It wasn't a coup and it was an election, but in a broader sense, like it's a destabilizing moment for the government and for the democracy. And Americans are not used to that. They're just like, wait, what? Right? Like, because remember,
Well,
Macron,
January 6th was the warning shot.
Le Pen, yeah, but it didn't
No,
work.
January 6th was the warning shot, and Democrats got too cute with it.
You got too cute with it. They
Like
they tried to play footsie with
they should have killed
Republicans.
people. They should have
Anyway,
executed people for treason, and they should have
um,
put everybody else in a black site. They shouldn't have done this. Well,
well,
we're
they should
going
have
to
done
press
what Lula did in
charges, but the
Brazil.
American people are going to vote them out, and I'll tell you why, man. And this is cynical as fuck, but it's true. Most people don't want to make a decision. They want to be led, even if it's into a fucking abyss, right? So if I'm Biden or whoever the fuck, you want to Pelosi, whatever it is, I'm getting in a room and I'm saying, look, we got them. They did this. They broke the law. We can prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. We can suspend them. Let's see, what are all of our options for removing them from office? What are our options for detaining them for a maximum amount of time? Anybody who is involved in this attack, what are our options? What are our legal options for detaining anybody who has any association with this attack? If they were given a tour to anybody that was arrested, I want them detained. Until we figure this out, nobody gets to make a speech. Nobody gets to say what it is. Like if you were involved in any capacity, if you had contact with anybody in capacity, detain. We need to see what it is. Anybody that has an issue investigating that from an FBI standpoint, fire them. This is non-negotiable. This is a terror attack on a country. We need to investigate it like 9/11. Full stop. This is the second 9/11. That is my messaging. This is the second 9/11. It just happened with domestic terrorists instead of international. We will not stand for this. America will not have its government buildings attacked. Like we are putting everybody in jail. We will execute them if we need to. We will keep the Pence gallows up and hang them on that. Fuck them. That's what it should have been instead of, well, once the American people hear how bad these things were, then they'll vote them out. No, fuck all that. Like don't put it back on the American people. You had everything you needed to do to prosecute, and you got worried that you'd be accused of some kind of kangaroo court. So, you
Yeah,
know the best way to not get fucked in court, don't do something that gets you dragged in court.
yeah,
I've been in court once for a speeding ticket.
yeah. No, they screwed up. I mean, they shit Lula, in Brazil came in,
Yeah,
prosecuted Bolsonaro,
Exactly.
He's banned from running for office at least until
Yep.
2030. He
All
can't
that.
travel,
All
and
that.
they didn't do any of that here.
And and
Thanks
grounds. And
thanks
you can execute for treason.
what the
Like
hell's his name?
it's in the code. You can execute for treason.
Yeah.
They
What the
should
hell? Merrick
kill.
Garland. Thanks, Merrick Garland. Thanks, Jack
Well,
Smith. Good
yeah.
strong work.
Well, no. I think if Jack Smith had been in Merrick Garland's position, more would have got done. I never got the obsession with Merrick Garland as this savior. I
I
never
didn't think
thought he
that.
was
Who
that
thinks that?
great. Well, my point is, Republicans screwed him out of the Supreme Court, right? Like that was Obama's nominee. Republicans screwed Merrick Garland out of the Supreme Court. The problem was Merrick Garland wasn't one of those people who's like, if I ever get a chance to pay these
He's a
motherfuckers back, I
conservative.
will. Merrick Garland was, well, I want to do that. And that's my whole point. So why the fuck would you put that dude? No, I want somebody with a fucking action ground. I want an asshole. I want somebody who hated these motherfuckers from the day he was born to lead the investigation and make it awkward for everybody who's involved. I don't want somebody who's been a lifelong conservative that might get worried that one of their buddies will get put in prison. I want an angry attack dog motherfucker that wants blood, that sees red and won't stop like a fucking pit bull. That's
Yeah.
what the fuck I want.
Well, I
Because
mean,
that's what
and
it
that was
demanded.
Biden's bad. That was Biden's bad. He
It,
this is
it,
that
it
that's
was, but it's I don't think he did that shit in a vacuum. I think there was a whole lot of Democratic leadership that was like, well, if we just show them how bad it is,
no. Well, I
they
that's
they would logically vote for the same people. And my whole thing,
Biden's record is that that's what he does. I mean, he is a dinosaur from another age,
he's a
and
he's a centrist.
put on that dude.
That's
All right.
yeah, but I mean that's it. Like it should have been that. There should have been at least 5 more Ashley Babbitts. Because I think if they had executed a certain amount of people would have taken it more seriously. I I'm not saying that because I just generally think people should be killed. But we're talking about a real terrorist who did try to kill people. There was a gallows there. They were trying to hang the fucking vice president. That's a non-negotiable fact. You conspired to kill the vice president. Somebody got to die.
Yeah.
I'm
All
saying,
right, bro.
attempted murder, like in some cases, right? Like conspiracy to commit murder. In some cases,
I'm not a death penalty guy myself, so that's
you
where we
know
differ.
what? I'm not always a death penalty guy, but I am a like kill terrorist to set a tone guy. You get what I'm saying? You gonna say like I get that some people are like, oh, Bin Laden is a human being and he deserved to. Yeah, like I'm like nah, like he arranged for 3,000 people to die. Like if you gonna be a general, you might get shot at like a soldier. Like you
Yeah.
signed up for that fight, you on that battlefield, like you knew what it was, you knew the rules of engagement. Bye. And I just don't look at terrorists any differently if they're white versus Arab. Like I'm like, if you a terrorist, if you tried to kill a government leader, like we probably got to make an example out of you. Like not this cutesy like maybe they'll lose the election and that'll show them. You want to let them commit a crime and then tell the American people, oh, the American people, no, you committed a crime. Like, why is it like what was the point of the Department of Justice if I commit a crime on TV and you telling me now I gotta vote them out? Like, I don't get that. Either it's a crime or it isn't. And if you're not going after a motherfucker like it's a crime, then now people are starting to doubt if it's a crime anymore.
Yeah. Feckless.
So that's my thing.
Yeah.
But you know what? If they had killed a couple of them Proud Boys, different energy.
Well, before you even get to that,
I'm in
we keep
realistic.
making new points, but like you're the other thing that fell flat for the Harris campaign was that they were ill defined. All the stuff that we're saying, they didn't have a unifying message at the end of the day, particularly with the
Now,
short time period.
I thought they did, but I thought
No, it was like Republican light. It's like, oh, I'm still gonna be tough. It was Republican, and why vote for Republican light when you can have the actual real deal? That's one thing. And then the other part of it is they kept saying democracy's on the line, but they for the last 4 years they have continually behaved as if democracy wasn't on the line when it comes to playing politics with Republicans. So it's like in English class. You
right.
cannot, you have to show, not tell. Like a good lyric. You have to show me, don't tell me. And what they were doing was they were trying to tell people, but they had not seeded the ground with their own
Yeah.
messaging about the threat that was in front of them. So it
Dude,
fell
see,
flat.
see, this is different. This is the difference between like, and this is probably why I will never be involved in a campaign. My ads, if I was Kamala, would have been Trump dancing with Epstein, Trump hugging with Epstein, and that part of Not Like Us, like certified pedophile, certified pedophile, certified pedophile, certified pedophile. Just 30 seconds of him partying with Epstein, and then like the accusations, and then like the affidavits, all the different accusers. That 30 seconds, just certified pedophile, certified pedophile, certified pedophile, certified pedophile. That would have been my entire any negative. It wouldn't have been he did this abortion. It would have been certified pedophile, certified pedophile. And then I would have gotten on stage and been like, look, you can vote for me or you can vote for the felon pedophile. Like if you cool with pedophilia, he's your guy. I get it. If you thought Epstein was living life and that's just how douche roll, that's your guy. So, if pedophilia ain't a deal breaker for you, like go ahead. That would have been my messaging. Unapologetically, just that. I would have called him a pedophile everywhere I went.
Yeah. No, I think there's validity. It would have been better than what they did.
It's easily digestible.
Mm-hmm.
You repeat it, you repeat it, you repeat it, you repeat it, you repeat it. And now he's got to say, well, no, I wasn't. And then now the media is saying, well,
Totally.
he did. He was accused of this and he wasn't.
100%. No, then you're talking about, right. Yeah. No, I agree. I like it.
So that is my whole.
They should have hired us for their campaign consultants instead of paying that $20 million that they did for nothing.
Because Kamala's problem is she comes from the Michelle Obama when they go low, we go high thing, which to me has never been an effective campaigning strategy. Negative campaigning is way more effective than positive campaigning, unless you are Barack. Because Barack believes that shit. Like he legitimately believes in hope, change. We can all he was to a naive fault, right? Like that was why he squandered so much of his political capital in his first 100 days trying to build consensus with Republicans instead of just ramming his agenda down their throats. But that is such a specific thing to Obama and not something that generally is going to work for most candidates, especially if they have a charisma deficit, right? Because Trump, I said when he came out, Trump has Hitler charisma. Hillary has no charisma. It's the same. Kamala was slightly more charismatic, but still not as charismatic as Trump with his Hitler charisma.
Yeah.
But certified pedophile cuts through.
Well, we'll never know.
No, we won't. But that's what I would have done, bro. Like, because it's a layup. And it wouldn't even have to be like, it wouldn't have to be like, it could have been one of the PACs, right? So maybe she doesn't want to put her name on it. Maybe one of the PACs does it. So it's like, PAC, Freedom Forward or whatever the fuck, right?
Yeah.
But that would have been my shit, like everywhere, like certified pedophiles.
Oh my God. Well,
yep.
Godspeed. Good luck to all of us.
Yeah, I hear you. So here's the thing: are you gonna laugh at people when it starts backfiring on them, or are you just gonna be like, "Well, we're all in this together," or are you gonna be like, "Well, hey, this is what you wanted. Hold it, bask in it, celebrate"?
I don't think that they're going to come to that. I think they will always blame it. They will find Trump is Teflon Don. He will blame anything that goes wrong on the media and Democrats, and his followers would believe that. So I don't think they will actually experience the things you're talking about and say, hey, wait a minute. They're going to be like, oh, there go the Democrats again.
So I know there were a lot of under Trump the first time. There were a lot of like if I remember correctly, there were like a lot of Arabs who had helped the US win certain territories or had been translators or whatever, and they had been promised citizenship in exchange, and he revoked a lot of that or decided not to live up to and stranded a lot of people. And so it's one of those things where there might be people who lose family members through this denaturalization push or
I just
this
saw an interview
deportation
with
push.
a Latino Trump voter, like in the press, where the
Mhm.
like yesterday or whenever he was like, "Oh, but he's not gonna. We're my family's. It's not us that he's gonna go after." So, like, yeah, I just think
No,
people just invent these fantasies and they find ways. The liberal boogeyman is such a powerful, motivating force in their minds.
I think
It can just like handle anything that comes your way. You always have that to fall back on as the scapegoat. Always. Unfortunately for us. All right, cool, man.
all right.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you too, man.
All right. Later on. Peace.
All right.